are you talking about? Where these guys come from? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. Dude, who are you yelling at? Welcome back to round 2 of Git Good Scrub. And spoiler alert, I did not get very good. But let's dive into it. Last time we came up with a pretty bad idea about a transmogrified Dromai deck, and then I played it a bunch and I lost every single game. It was bad. So bad it made me really sad for a while. So we had to go back and look at it. And then I got into the thing where you keep changing every card in your deck and just spinning out of control, which is pretty much how every experience of deck building I've had goes. I try something, doesn't work, I get sad, and then I just keep trying other things and it just keeps not working. So what do we do then? We kind of look at what we're doing. Seems like for the most part, the deck was just very fair. I would do 8 to 12 damage in a turn if I kept all of my cards, which isn't very good in this meta, and it's even worse if they just pop your phantasms. So, what are we going to do about that? One thing we can do, switch up the format. Shout out to Jesse, one of our patrons, who I was playing some games with, and he said, maybe try it in Blitz. So, that's what we've been doing. And you know what? It kind of almost works in Blitz. One of the key factors there is Plunder Run is just a good card and is not banned in Blitz. And you can do things like Plunder Run, Phantasmify, Miraging Metamorph for like, what is that, 17 or something. And if you have Pierce Reality out, it goes to like 19. And if you have Passing Mirage out, it has no Phantasm. And that's pretty sweet. So that's kind of the area we've gone in. The biggest kind of learnings I've had so far is that it's still not great. It has a pretty bad Prism matchup. It's not great against the decks who can just block out your big, tall attacks with armor like Guardian or Dorinthia. But it can do some fun stuff. And it actually felt like it was working in a way that it hadn't been. So that's been really interesting. One thing to also note is that Transmogrify might be the weaker buff in this deck. That was originally kind of the idea, but it was also looking at Phantasmify and Veiled Intentions, and the ability to just pump cards rather than change their base is pretty interesting. So the big caveat there is that Transmogrify plus something like Fractal Replication can do some interesting stuff. So one of the things we're kind of looking at is how do we buff up cards, give them cool on hits, and then use like Fractal Replication to duplicate those things. So that's kind of where we went. We're not giving up completely in CC. I have some thoughts on where we might go. I think rather than focusing on all of these pumps, maybe just like adding a couple. One idea is really focusing on the fact that Phantasmal Footsteps is not used for its, action point regeneration in Dromai as much because you're playing more dragons. So the idea that I'm kind of messing around with right now is how do we kind of balance some good dragons and some strong Phantasm Illusionist attacks, or just good attacks with like Go Again that I can make Illusionist through these other cards and then do some fun stuff again with like Fractal Replication. We're gonna hold off on that for a bit. It is much harder to, or at least for me, to figure out how to build a proper CC deck. I have been playing just more dragon focused Dromai deck just to learn it and also compare it, because if that's like the baseline of what a good Dromai deck can be, I gotta at least be close to that if I think I'm gonna like go in this more unique direction. That being said, because Michael Hamilton just won U.S. Nationals with what we're gonna call the Mullet Icelander deck. It's Guardian up front, Wizard in the rear. That was just like a really unique idea. Probably sounded crazy, but he focused on fixing what he saw as the issues of with the red spells in Icelander just not being very on rate. And I don't know what the issue I'm trying to fix is. It seems like dragons are pretty good, but I'm still just kind of exploring this idea. So we're not giving it up. We might kind of explore some other decks. Like I said, this is a journey that we will be on for a while. I think I have much to learn, and especially how to deal with not doing great. Going like 0-10 at my armory with my silly deck wasn't the best feeling, so kind of put me in a weird spot, to be honest. And learning how to deal with those and learn from those things is something I'm really trying to work on, and I know a lot of people can relate to that. Going to an event not doing well makes you kind of question whether or not you can play this game. And you know what? We can. We like this game. We play this game. We all have our ups and downs. Some of us are better at just picking the good deck and going for it. And others, we try to do some weird stuff and have a good time. And when we don't have a good time, that's rough. But let's jump in and look at this deck. All right, you'll notice that right away we're on 3.0 already. I wasn't able to really figure out a good process for transporting this deck over. I had some like initial success, but then struggled a lot into some other things. So I've been kind of iterating on it in the background, trying to figure out what we can do and what was working and how do we make those things work better and give myself the time to make those things happen. So, biggest thing, and we'll jump right down to it. Talishar, the Lost Prince. We're not running any dragons, so we don't need a weapon that does nothing. We need a weapon that can at least do something. And when most of our attacks are 0 cost or +1 for the buff, having 2 resources left over is great if you have a weapon you can swing for 2. So that's kind of one of the biggest factors here. Maybe that is just highlighting the jank level of this deck, but that's okay. I think it's actually pretty good. It gives you something to pitch to. It helps you cycle your hand first turn if you need to set up a better turn for your second turn. And I think overall it's been good. And at least in Blitz, I don't see a lot of time to get dragons up and running. So this is kind of what we're looking at. Also in chess piece, we got Blossom of Spring is kind of our standard. I'm looking at Deep Blue to see if that works better or as good. Blossom of Spring is nice because usually I just need a resource to do either just one to get the turn going or an extra one to kind of make a good turn even better. So that's been pretty good. Crown of Providence, just great. You can arsenal a bad card and fix your hands when you need to. Dreamweavers, really important, especially when you're going super tall with your phantasms. And Ironhide Gauntlet, I might even put Iron Rod here. I'm not quite sure. The games where you want to block or you need to block, it's not great to have to pitch for. So yeah, still TBD there. Maybe just bad. Snapdragons, a lot of our attacks are 0 or 1, so this is great to kind of make some big turns even bigger. And then in the sideboard, still running Phantasmal Footsteps against decks that run a lot of poppers naturally, and then Null Rune loadout for Icelander. since we're not doing any Ashwing stuff here. So let's look at the 40. We of course have 2 Veiled Intentions, 2 Transmogrifies, and 2 Phantasmifies. That's still the core idea. Like I said, Plunder Run, legal in Blitz, so why not have a 0 for +3 and a hit effect in our deck? So we're still rocking that. Still got the overloads, still works pretty well when you pump it and have the dominate. The go again on hit is covered up sometimes, which can be a bummer, but also can draw out a lot of equipment blocks, which if you get it early enough can be pretty good, unless you took a lot of damage to get that off. Blazing Hedgehog, still good. One thing here, we still have, I don't know if I have to look back. I forget if I had Snatch, but we got Snatch. Great way to just play out your whole hand and maybe get an arsenal card. Also with Snapdragon, lets you go, a little bit wider if you do get that hit. And then because of Pro Tour 2, Promise of Plenty seemed like a cool hit effect and go again and card that you could buff for 0 cost attack. So we're trying that out. Still unclear. Sometimes it does allow your opponent to get an arsenal card, which kind of sucks, but the on hit and ability to extend your own turn sometimes is pretty good. The deck does have a fair amount of non-attack actions, which can make that awkward. That's something I'm kind of looking at, but we did kind of focus on more go-again attacks. So we have Spears of Sterility, Dunebreaker Senpai, and of course, like I said, Blaze Hedgehog, which, when you play out one of these pumps that are red, you immediately get go again, which is pretty good. Put in these Coalescence Mirage. The idea here is that if you've just got this in arsenal and 2 blues or something, and one of them being one of your auras, you can play this out, and if they pop it, you can put your aura into the arena for free, which is pretty cool. Also thinking about maybe putting Mage Master Boots in and just doing the whole play Passing Mirage first and then a big old attack after that, but we'll have to play around with that. Dust Up is here. It's mostly just a blue that blocks for 3. Erase Face, kind of testing out having something that could be either a popper but also turn off things for like Prism, Dash, other maybe even Lexi heroes who need their types of cards to matter. But it's just the one, so I don't know if it comes up too much. We do have 4 defense reactions, Fate Foreseen and Sink Below. This is just to kind of cover up the fact that I have way too many block for 2s, and then these fractals that block for nothing if you have the wrong hand. So that's helping a little bit. It's still not a blocking deck. It's still mostly pushing, trying to push aggressive damage, but Sink Below and Fate Foreseen can either fix your hand or set up your next draw to be a little bit better than you thought. What else? Still Pierce Reality, Passing Mirage. Pierce Reality just lets you get even bigger, so if you draw this early, turn 0 or 1, you can block up, play this out, and push attacks to go pretty tall. And that's basically it. So far, the Plunder Run is just awesome. I know it obviously because it was banned and Classic constructed, but the on hit throughout the turn is really good. There are a lot less poppers in Blitz because there's no sideboarding. So the classes who don't actually run 6s are not as likely to pop your thing, but even if you just Plunder Run into Blaze Headlong, Headlong, you've now got a 7 go again attack that's pretty powerful for free. this is where we're at. I think the biggest turns I've had, like I said, was like Miraging Metamorph, where I Phantasmify and Veiled Intentions it. So it was +5, 12, +4 to 16. Maybe also Plunder Run on it, so it went to like 19, and it was just like nuts. And I had Passing Mirage out, and right then I was like, okay, this is being able to do that is fun and cool. And I had way more fun in that one game than I had in the like 15 plus games I played with the classic constructed deck. So yeah, this is where we're at right now. Like I said, still looking at some changes. My overall results on this deck are not super great yet. I've only, I've been kind of iterating on it over different decks and making copies, so I think right now it's mostly losses on 2 decks. Pretty sweet. Also, as you might have noticed, I am now using Fabrary. Shout out to Fabrary. I think this site is the obviously most superior deck building site, just because you get all these built-in stats. You can do your hypergeometric calculation. You can see easily, the different types, keywords, defense, and your cost of everything, which is pretty awesome. And of course, the integration with Talishar.net is pretty amazing. I am excited to see where this platform takes us. I am now a Patreon of Talishar. I will probably become one of Fabrary very soon. And yeah, so that is the deck. So we moved to Blitz. Not my favorite format, but honestly been having a lot of fun playing this deck. I get a lot of good reactions when I throw out a Transmogrify or a Veiled Intentions and a Phantasmify, and they're just like, nice, because you don't see these cards. And anybody who plays these classes knows that they seem fun, they could be good, they haven't proven themselves to be good yet, but I definitely have won a couple games. Not the most insane record at the time, but it's Blitz. Sometimes the game's over in 2 turns. With this deck, I've seen actually a lot of games go into 10 plus turns, and it gets really interesting being able to do things like come in for like a huge dominated overload attack, or just go really tall, or even just Veiled Intentionings a Blaze Headlong into a Fractal, which is only 4, but you have Go Again, and if you pitch to blue, you get that Go Again, and then you can swing Talishar. So definitely some weird jank stuff going on, but having much more fun in this format with this deck. I am, like I said, looking out for how to take these learnings and apply them to the classic constructed format. I think being able to play faster games is making it a little bit easier to learn off of it. I think when you're playing classic constructed, your game's going 40 minutes sometimes, and you're just getting beat down and you don't block very well, and whenever you do try to go big, it doesn't go that big, and that is tough to deal with, like I said. So looking at it from this side, I definitely see that the kind of go tall approach, the use of fractal replication to kind of mimic whatever the last attack was, and I think also putting in a bit more defensive ability through defense reactions is really going to translate over there. I think too there has to be a little bit of concession to the fact that dragons are very good, and using them kind of strategically to either, I don't know, we'll have to figure out if that's like a late game thing or an early game thing, whether or not we just run the big ones, or if we're looking at running things like Miragai and Chromai to get those extra action points, and Phantasm removers. But all that's still TBD. I'm also kind of curious and looking at what does a more draconic focused Dromai look like. There's so many draconic cards that she seemingly doesn't run and maybe are just bad. Again, here I go. Just maybe it's bad, but let's try it anyways. But if you kind of go with like an Ashwing spam into these big rupture hit effect things, maybe there could be something there. It's at least seems unexplored to me, and I'm curious about that. Let's explore. Let's try to have fun doing this, and when we're not having fun, let's move on to something else, because I don't need to just slog through something for the principle of it. Y'all will forgive me, I'm sure, if I don't break the format right here. I'm just trying to learn. I am not Michael Hamilton. I'm just Chonigman, and I am trying to get good, Scrub. So until next time, thanks everyone for watching, and we will see you next time. Wave to the people. Wave to the people.